Hello everyone, welcome back to Masechet Pesachim, Tractate Pesachim, where we talk about Pesach and the laws pertaining to Pesach, Passover. We are on Daf Bet Amud Bet, which is 2b, 2b or not 2b, 2b, which is at the last line on 2b. It says Metvei Mal Zutra, the last three lines on the page, and then we're going to keep going from there. But before we do that, I just want to review a few lines back. We're on the fourth line from the bottom. If you remember last time, we spoke about what is the definition of or. We know it means light, but in the context of the Mishnah, it says or la'aba asar bodkin et hachametz. It says the light of the 14th, we check for chametz. We check for leavened bread to not have chametz on Passover. And so the entire discussion between Rav Yehuda and Rav Huna, the machloket that they have between the Amoraim, Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda. Rav Huna is the one that says or means daytime, so we check in the daytime of the 14th. And Rav Yehuda says or means nighttime, so we check the night of the 14th. So what is the night of the 14th? So if we say that Monday night is the Seder night, then Sunday night is when you would check according to Rav Yehuda, because that's the night of the 14th. The 14th is Erev Pesach, the day before Passover. So 14th is Erev Pesach. Let's get started. We're on the 10th Meitvei. If you remember, we had first 7 Meitveis, 7 Ra'ayot, 7 proofs against each opinion, trying to figure out which one is right. Does Ol mean day or does Ol mean night? We went through 7 of them that were from the Tanakh, from the biblical text, different verses. Then we had 8, 9, 10, 11, which were from Mishnayot. We're going to have another 12, 13, 14, and 15, which are from Gemara or Mishnah. You'll see also Braita. But it's going to be from the Talmud or the Mishnah, the oral Torah, Torah Sheba'al Peh. So we're on number 10. We're just going to review a little bit. Number 10, on the fourth line from the bottom, the line starts Rabbanan. The third word on the line is Meitvei. It says Meitvei ein mesi'in masaot. So number 10, Meitvei. So now we have a proof against one of the opinions. Ein mesi'in masaot ela ala chodesh nira bismano lekacho. We don't light the bonfires on the top of each mountain to signify the beginning of the month, unless so when do we do it? La'or iburo, to the light of the next day. So what is the light of the last day, or the next day? If you have a month of 30 days, and you have a month of 31, so how do you know the difference and when each one ends? So what they would do is they would light bonfires on the top of each mountain from the Bet Din, the Jewish court of law, and they would figure out when is the beginning of each month, and that's how we would have Rosh Chodesh. Before we had a calendar, we didn't know when Rosh Chodesh was. So the Jewish court of law would signify when it was, based on, I think it was astrology, but based on different ideas in the stars and the moon and the entire cycle of the moon. And they would signify from the Bet Din through the entire land of Israel, they would have bonfires on top of each mountain to signify that's when Rosh Chodesh is, and this is when it starts. And so when do they do that? On the Or. So what's the time that they do that? It says the light. They use the word light. So they're just like the word light in our Mishnah. L'or iburo, the day of the next day, as in the day of the next month. So what does that mean, the night? What does it mean, the light? Alma or urtuhu. So because he uses the word light, and Rashi gives us a very good idea here. He says that when they light the bonfires, it's hard to see a fire in the daytime. So it must be that the fire was on the mountain in the nighttime, because we know that they would light the fires at night. So it must be that, when we use the word light, it actually means nighttime. Shmamina. So that's the one that we accept. Okay, maybe you're right. You're right. The Gemara says, yeah, light does mean nighttime. So we have 2 proofs for Rabbi Yehuda, number 8 and number 10. Now we're going to see number 11. It says that when the Kohen was staying up all night to bring korbanot, and then when the morning comes, he would need to wash his hands and his feet. And these are the words of Rebbe. So the word that they use is ora, which means light. But the Gemara says ora shiny. It's sha'ani. So what is light? Light, there's two words. Or, we have light. Ora is with the hey. It seems more feminine in the word itself, but it's a different word, the Gemara says. It's a different word. It doesn't count. All is what we use specifically. It's a specific word that we use. So you can't use this to prove anything. So we can't accept that one. So now we only have number 8 and number 10. We're on the last line of the page, Meitfei Malzutra. So Malzutra has a Mishnah that says, Hamapelet or l'shmonim ve'echad. Just to give some background on the case, when there's a miscarriage on the light, it says literally light of the 81st. So there's Rashi gives us a lot of background information. In the Torah, there's a law that says when a woman gives birth, she has to wait, if it's a boy, 7 days, and those 7 days are considered impure 7 days, where she can't have relations and so on. And then after that, she has 33 days of counting after the 7 until she brings a kolban, a sacrifice to the altar in the Bet Mikdash, in the Holy Temple. And that signifies that she's fully pure and she can go back on to her life and that the pregnancy process is over. The birthing process is over. So it's 7 days for a boy, 33 days after that. For a girl, it's 14 days and 66 after that, which is total, if you count 14 plus 66, 80. So 80 days, and after that she brings a sacrifice. Now what happens if she miscarried on the 81st day? Because on the 81st day, she was supposed to bring a sacrifice. But here it says, Or lishmonim ve'echad, on the light of the 81st. Now when you bring the kolban, the woman is supposed to bring the kolban in the daytime of the 81st. So is this talking about a case where it's the nighttime of the 81st? Or is it the daytime of the 81st? Before or after she brings her kolban for the first birth? So how is this possible? Rashi asks. Rashi says is that in a case where the first birth was okay, and within the pure days of her 66, as in within the pure days after the 14, because it was a girl, within those 66 days, she became pregnant, and then she miscarried on the 81st day of her original birth, of her female birth. So now what happens if you miscarry on the 81st day? So the question is, do you bring another sacrifice? Or is it included in the first birth's sacrifice? Because she still has to bring a sacrifice to show that she is pure. So does she count a whole new set after she miscarried? Or does she include it with the counting of her first birth? So we're looking at two births. The first one is day 0, and then she wants to bring a kolban on day 81. And she miscarried within the 66, as in she became pregnant within the 66, and she miscarried on day 81. Is she supposed to bring a sacrifice or not? That's the discussion. Because it says the word or, light, we want to discuss, is this the same light that we can use from our Mishnah? So in this discussion, there's a machloket. Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. The house of Shammai and the house of Hillel. Bet Shammai potrinu b'kalban, Bet Hillel mechayvin. Bet Shammai says she has to bring another sacrifice. And Bet Hillel says, I'm sorry, I mistake. Bet Shammai says she doesn't have to bring another sacrifice. She could include the sacrifice that she's bringing for her original female birth within this miscarriage. And Bet Hillel says she has to bring another one. Amru Bet Hillel Bet Shammai. So Bet Hillel says to Bet Shammai, Mai shana o shmoni ve'echad, miyom shmoni ve'echad. What's the difference between the light of the 81st and the daytime of the 81st? Im shiva lo letuma, lo ishava lo lekorban. So Bet Hillel says to Bet Shammai, what's the difference between the light of the 81st to the day of the 81st? So the Gemara in just a second is going to say that if Bet Hillel is putting these two together, the light and the day must mean that light is nighttime. But what is he really asking? If they're the same thing for Tumah, as in, if she miscarried, she still has to count a whole set of Tumah again. It shouldn't be the same thing for a Kolban, as in, she shouldn't bring another Kolban after that. So that's the end of the discussion so far. That's the end of the quote. But the idea is that if she miscarries on the 81st day, is she supposed to bring a Kolban if we consider that the korban that she brings is at the nighttime or the daytime. Because if she brings it at the nighttime and she miscarried on the 81st, then we can understand that she has to wait a whole new set. So from the fact that Bet Hillel said to Beit Shammai, where he used the word or and yom in the same sentence, and they're two different things. Shmamina or utahu. So it must be that when we say the word or, light, it must mean nighttime. So we want to say the same thing by our Mishnah, that light also means the night of the 14th. Shmamina, so the Gemara accepts this one. This number 12 and 12 is accepted. So 8, 10, and 12. And we're going to keep going. We're at number 13. We'll do one more and then we'll stop there. But the idea, I just want to make sure it's clear. Just the idea. So the law is that if a woman is pregnant, she gives birth to a baby girl, she has to wait 14 days of impurity and then 66 days of purity. She's allowed to have relations and so on. She's pure, considered in those 66 days. But after those 66 days, she has to bring a korban, a sacrifice to the altar in the holy temple, so that can signify as the end of her birthing. So what happens if within those 66 days she becomes pregnant again and she miscarries on the 81st day of the original baby girl? So that's the real case of the Gemara, and so that's the discussion between Beit Shammai and Bet Hillel. Bet Hillel says because, right, we are inferring that Or Leshmonim Ve'echad is actually the nighttime, and she's bringing her korban in the daytime. So if she's miscarries at nighttime before the korban is brought, is she supposed to bring it with the korban or after? Or is it considered after and she has to bring a whole new set and wait a whole new time? So according to Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai, they have different opinions on the subject. We're on number 13. Meitve. We have another proof for one of the opinions. Yachol yehen echal or lashlishi. It's possible, because we know that every day we say the korbanot, we talk about korban shlamim. Make sure that I'm not making a mistake here. Or l'shlishi, lo knisato shel shishi havina megalsin haro l'shishi shlamim. Right. So Rashi says that we're talking about shlamim. Shlamim, there were certain types of korbanot, certain types of sacrifices that were eaten only for a certain amount of time. As in, you had a time limit, expiration date, you can say, on the time that you're allowed to eat it. So you would only have a day, a night, and a day, 2 days and 1 night. So maybe you would have thought that they can be eaten to the light of the third. So what is the light of the third? We have to discuss that, and that's why we brought it here. That's why the Gemara brought it here. So the ol, he uses the word ol of the third day. What is the light of the third day? Vidinhu, and it's logical to say that you were able to eat the shlamim, which is on. Let me put it in perspective. So let's say Sunday, you bring the korban Sunday morning. So you can eat the korban Sunday morning, Sunday night, Monday morning. But now, are you allowed to eat the korban still on Monday night? That's the real question. And so the Gemara you're going to see soon is that Monday night is considered the light of the third day. Third day is Tuesday, but it's considered the light. So ol must mean nighttime. But we're going to see, are we allowed to eat this korban, this sacrifice, on Monday night? So you would have thought that maybe you can eat it on Monday night. V'dinu, and it's logical to say that. When it comes to zvachim, which is a different type of sacrifice, they're only allowed to be eaten from the daytime and the nighttime, but not the next day. But the shlamim, which is what we're talking about, which is a certain type of sacrifice, can be eaten for 2 days. Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Monday morning. So it should also be Monday night. So just like over there where they have a morning and a night, that the night and the morning are together, so too by over here we should have 2 mornings and 2 nights, not 2 mornings and 1 night. So why is this not the case? Tamul Lumar, it says in the pasuk, it says in the verse, B'yom zivchachem, in the day that you bring the korban, yachel, you should eat. Machot, in the day after, vanotar ad yom hashishi yisaref. It said, if you leave it over until the third day, it should be burned. So this pasuk, this verse comes to teach us is that you can't eat it Monday night. But that pasuk, that verse also mentions is that it's supposed to be burned. בעוד יום הוא נאכל ואינו נאכל לאור שלישי. בעוד יום הוא נאכל ואינו נאכל לאור שלישי. So he's explaining the pasuk that we just said. So he's saying that it can be eaten for that day, but it can't be eaten at that night. So now we're going to go on to say, if you're supposed to burn it on the third day, are you supposed to burn it immediately on Monday night, or is it supposed to be on Tuesday morning? Vidinu, it's logical to say that you should burn it on Monday night. Why? Because you're not allowed to eat it. So why shouldn't you just burn it? זבחים נאכלים ליום ולילה אחד, ושלמים נאכל לשני ימים ולילה אחד. מה להלן תכף להאכיל לשרפה, אף כאן תכף להאכיל לשרפה. So now we're going to try to put two laws that are connected and apply one idea from that law onto another law. So in one case of zvachim, it's called zvachim, a certain type of sacrifice that we bring in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple. If we say in that case, right after you're not allowed, as in when the time comes when you're prohibited from eating it, you're supposed to burn it, which is that morning, the next morning. Then so too by shlamim, which is what we're talking about, that you should burn it immediately, which would be on Monday night, and not on Tuesday morning. No, that's why we have a pasuk, Talmud Lomar, it says in the verse, it says specifically you're supposed to burn it on Tuesday morning and not Monday night. Bayom, you're not allowed to burn it at night, you're supposed to burn it during the day. So why do we bring this whole discussion about korbanot and sacrifices and third day, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday? It doesn't make sense. Why do we bring it? Why? Because of one word. We had one word in the entire discussion. What was the word? Or. It said or. Yachol yenechal or yom shlishi. The night of the third day, which we saw was Monday night. So it must mean by the fact that they said the light of the third day, al ma'or ultahu. So light must mean nighttime, and so we can apply light meaning nighttime in our Mishnah. And so Rav Yehuda has this proof with him. Shma mina. Gemara says, yeah, you're right. It's a good proof. We'll stop here. We're at the 14th. We're not stopping. We're just stopping here for the Gemara. I'm going to give you some Chassidut on this Masechet, just to introduce a little bit of secrets. Let me see if I can find it. In Sfat Emet, on Parshat HaChodesh, he actually quotes this Masechet. Here, Emet. And in reality, before this, I'm taking it in the middle, but before he was speaking here, he said that a person has to have a certain level of avodah, a certain level of service to the Creator, so that he can do the things in the right way. But he says, "Ube'emet," in reality, hakol letova. Everything is for the best. As in, we're okay either way we go. So he says here that the sages were doshin, they were explaining in our Masechet Psachim, Daf Bet Amud Bet 2b. If you remember, when we talked about David, who thought that he was going to be chased and murdered, he actually saw that it was going to be okay. And he said a certain verse, and from that verse we wanted to say that O that he used in that verse meant light. Let me just quote it in the Gemara. So we want to say that light means daytime, but really he said we can't. Why? Because David actually was saying, I thought that Olam Haba, my world to come, will be dark, but now I see that this world, which is already dark, is actually light because Hashem, you saved my life. So we're going to see how Sfat Emet explains this beautiful verse. How does he explain? Darshu Chazal, they explain. Ani amalti ba'olam ba choshech yeshuvani. I said that in my world to come will be dark, ulbasof, and in the end, afilu olam hazeh, even this world, shedomeh lelayla, that's so dark and full of negativity, or ba'adani, it became light for me. Right? David HaMelech is saying this because Hashem saved his life. The Creator saved his life. Perush. So Sfat Emet wants to give an explanation. What are the sages really saying in this Masechet? We're talking about when Bnei Yisrael were sent in this world. We're in exile. We're in darkness. We have negative sides to our life all the time. Why? Why do we have such a negative part of our life? That's the Sfat Emet. Sfat Emet wants to explain. What are we here for? Why are we in exile? Why is it so dark? What are we supposed to do in this darkness? הוא למצוא הארה גם בעולם הזה. It's to find the light within this world, within the darkness, within the negativity. שהלא בית יצירות הם מהשם יתברך. There are two creations that the Creator created. והמשפט הבא מאיר לנו גם בעולם הזה, על ידי התורה ומצוות. The two creations are עולם הבא and עולם הזה. The world to come and this world. There are two worlds, the world to come and this world. So why did he create both of them? So that we can find the light within this world as well. Through, what's the only way we can find the light within our negativity, within the darkness in our life? Torah mitzvot. When we learn Torah and when we do mitzvot. והכל אמת, and everything is true. שבוודאי כך צריך האדם להיות בזה הפחד ואומר אך חושך ואחר כך תפתח לו שערי אורה. That only when a person has this fear or awe of God, of the Creator, that he thinks I might mess up right now, I have to make sure I don't give in to the negativity. I don't give in to the darkness. I stay where the light is and I find the light within the darkness. That's when the lights of the gates of light will open. So that's the Sfat Emet on this pasuk, is to find the light within negativity. I just want to give, Ben Yoyada is a sefer by the Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim mi Baghdad, I'm pretty sure it's Baghdad, Ben Yoyada and Psachim. He gives an interesting idea about Or. Why do we start this Masechet with the word light? And if you're going to see later on, as we're going to see in the next class, is that in the end, there was a Braita that quoted this Mishnah with the word nighttime. So why do we have to go through this entire thing? There's an answer that really the way that the Talmud Bavli is, I heard this in a shiur by Rabbi Ariel Leibowitz on Aldaf. He says that the whole point of Talmud Bavli, Yagdil Torah v'yadir, that there should always be more Torah. That even, it's not about just having what's set and having what it should be. It's the journey you get there. You learn about korbanot, you learn about sacrifices, you learn about different laws, you learn about Tehillim. And so it's the path that gets you there. And you learn more Torah on the way. So the Ben Ish Chai actually says, I'm going to read it here. He says something beautiful. We know how the Mishnah starts. The light of the 14th, we check for chametz, we check for leavened bread with the light of a candle. It seems to me with the help of heavens, Ki David HaMelech alav hashalom, King David, Amar velayla o ba'adani, he quotes the pasuk, the verse from Tehillim that we say in this Masechet. David HaMelech was waiting for light to connect to him. As in, he was waiting for the light. He was looking for the light. And that's the pasuk that we quote, and that's how the sages translate it. That he sees that the light is actually there even in this world. So he takes a different verse from Psalms in Tehillim. It says, Dishanta b'shemen roshi, you anointed my head in oil. Kosi revaya, my cup, it's a cup. My cup is overflowing. ואמר רבה ישמע מינה, כיסא דברכת דוד לעתיד מחזיק רחה לוגין. In the future, he's quoting in Masechet Yoma, in the future, there's a certain measurement of liquid that in the future the cup of King David will hold, it will be able to hold 221 lugin, which is a certain amount of liquid. It's like a certain measurement. But what is 221? So Ben Ish Chai tells us 221 is revaya. It's from the pasuk, the same pasuk, revaya, overflowing. My cup is overflowing, but it's still able to hold the overflow. So it's the same gematria as revaya. ויש סוד עמוק ברכה לוגין הנשרים שהוא מספר אורך. אורות והיינו דוד מספרו י"ד ואם מספר אור עולה רכה לכך אמר אור בעדני. So what is the Ben Ish Chai telling us here? David, gematria, if you take the gematria of the word David, Dalid Vav Dalid, is 14. 14 plus Or, 14 plus 221. I'm sorry, 14 plus 207. Or is 207 plus 14. You get Revaya. Something crazy. So David, which is 14, with Or, which is 207. Together, you put them together, you add 207 plus 14, you get 221, which is Gematria Revaya. You have overflow. Bodkin et chametz, you check for chametz, and he goes on with many different gematriot. I'm not going to list them all here. But the idea is that David HaMelech was always looking for the light. We have to ask ourselves, where are we looking for the light? Where are we looking? Are we looking at what's in our life and we're seeing the light? Or we're not? You can watch the introduction to Talmud Esser Sfirot on vital transformation on the same YouTube channel you're watching this right now. Introduction to Talmud Esser Sfirot, I explained from the Rav Ash. Rav Ashlag explains, the Baal HaSulam explains that when a person doesn't see the goodness in his life, the good parts of his life, why is it? It's because he doesn't have the right level of emunah. And so David HaMelech had such great levels of emunah, even though it seems like he didn't, but in reality he did. It's explained in many places. Is that David HaMelech had the levels of emunah to see that everything in this world was light. There is always light, but where are you going to see it? So that's what Or LaAbasa, that's the light of the 14th. And that's what we want to see, Be'ezrat Hashem. So we are on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, we're on 3a, and that's where we're going to continue next time. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.